Welcome to the 5-Star Retirement Show with Patrick Mueller, best-selling co-author of Dare to Succeed and president of Bella Advisors. Today, he'll be sharing his 5-star retirement formula, including lifetime income planning, investment planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, and legacy planning. Here's Chris Monroe and Patrick Mueller.
And welcome to 5-Star Retirement, a brand new show here that we're going to be having. And I'm Chris Monroe, your co-host, alongside Patrick. It's Mueller, right, Patrick?
Mueller, yeah.
Mueller.
Yeah, like the Trump investigator.
There you go, right.
Or like since I was a kid, right? Bueller.
I was about to say, right?
Yeah.
That was the other standby for there. So great new show here. We're going to be talking about practical ways that people can save better, they can live better, and all about retirement. And I'm sure we'll be talking about the 5 points in the 5-star retirement that you talk about.
That's right.
In how to set people up for a better retirement.
Exactly. So we call this the 5-star retirement because there's 5 areas to retirement planning that people got to be paying attention to make sure that they're always going to be okay. And so those 5 stars is income planning. So when you're retiring, how do you replace your paycheck when you retire?
Sure.
And then you've got investment planning. How are those investments designed to help you accomplish that? And then we got taxes, healthcare, and legacy planning that we got to be talking.
And that's daunting for a lot of people
that
have tried to go on it on their own and not done so well, or have made a lot of mistakes. So let's talk about some of the mistakes that people have made with money. Life happens. There's been people I know. I was guilty of this in an early age. You take a 401k and you cash it out. Not a good thing. It wasn't much in there. A lot of things that you can do wrong that make mistakes. But one of the things that you can do better, I think, that you would tell people is to be reconsider your retirement age.
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of all over the place with that when they'd like to retire.
For me, it was 45. That time has come and gone now. But we're living longer. And I think people, it's this fairy tale that they want to retire at 60, and that's nice, and that sounds nice. Mm-hmm. But explain why that might be a problem.
And think about that back when Social Security first started,
right.
It's crazy to think about, but life expectancy wasn't even at the Social Security age when people were at full retirement age.
That's true.
So I want to say average life expectancy was around 62, and you couldn't take it at that point until 65. So people weren't even living that long, but now people are living well into their 90s and living past age 100.
So you start taking retirement at an early age, and you get that low ball. If you take it at the very early stage, you could live another 30 years.
For sure, yeah. I mean, people are living more than a third of their lifetime in retirement, and there's another word for retirement. It's called unemployment. I mean, you're unemployed for the next 25, 30 plus years. So how do you make that happen? So when you decide to stop working, that's a big deal.
And retirement, I think, has changed for a lot of people. In my dad's age and my granddad's age, a lot of that was, I'm going to get the gold watch from the company that I worked for 50 years, and then I'm going to go play shuffleboard, and then I'm going to die in a few years. But as we said, people are reinventing themselves. They may want to do a whole new career. They may want to go into something completely different. They may want to travel. So setting that income up, and as you said, and those 5 things to keep retirement healthy, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so shuffleboard, is that the big thing, like the play shuffleboard?
Well, I mean, it was at some point. At one point, there's people wanted to go play bridge and shuffleboard. I know that's what my granddad did. So fine-tuning retirement goals. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people don't even have retirement goals. Probably
most people don't.
Yeah,
most people really don't. And it's kind of when they listen to shows like ours, or people are maybe 5 to 10 years from retiring, where they start thinking, well, maybe it's time to really start talking to somebody to figure out, how much money do we really have to retire? How much income do you need? What do you want your lifestyle to be looking like when you retire? So some people think that their expenses are going to be going down when they retire, and that's typically not the case. Usually it's going up, because now every day's a Saturday, right? Now you get all day to play shuffleboard and bridge and travel and do all the other hobbies or things that you want to be getting into. So that usually equals more money coming out of your pocket when you've got that idle free time to be doing
Well,
stuff.
of course, if you're in your 40s and you're thinking about what the cost, what the value of a dollar is going to be in 30 years, you've got to that's got to be factored in as well.
Big time, yeah. Inflation, yeah. We were just talking about this a little bit earlier, where it seems like I would go to the grocery store and I'd spend $100 and I'd be filling up the back of my trunk with groceries, and now it's like 1 or 2 bags that I'm putting back there.
It's kind of depressing, and that's even with the little Super Saver cards and all of that stuff. So here's another good one about talking about, getting back to fundamentals, and that's diversifying retirement investments. I know there's a lot of people that love their company, and let's say in their 401k, they can buy their company stock. They got a whole bunch of their retirement money tied up. Probably not a good idea, I wouldn't think, right?
Yeah, the closer you get to retirement, it's not so much about accumulating anymore and accumulating all that stock. It's about protecting it from losing. I mean, something happens to that company. Think about like a company like Enron, if you remember that.
I do.
Yeah. So so a lot of those, that was the case where a lot of those employees, they had their money in that Enron stock, and so they froze everybody's retirement accounts. And so when that stock price went down to nothing, so did their retirements.
Is it still about in a lot of the financial planning advice that I heard, 30 years ago, and I don't even know if it's still good, is you want a mix of growth and income bearing, bonds. It kind of depended on how long you have to retire. Is that still true today?
It is, but one thing that people need to be aware of is you want to use something called the rule of 100. So in retirement planning, we use the rule of 100. Take whatever your age is, and so that should be the amount of your savings that's in things that are safe and protected from loss. So for a long time, that was bonds were used as kind of the protection piece.
Sure.
Now, since the last couple of years, that's not the case. For the next decade, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah.
So we've been having to look for bond alternatives. So for an example, if somebody's 55 years old, then they want to have 55% of their money in things that are safe and protected, and 45% that's in things that are risk in the markets.
Means something different today, as you said.
That's exactly
than it did. Everybody safe used to equal bonds, and it doesn't anymore.
Yeah, so nothing in the markets. Nothing in the markets.
Establishing a guaranteed recurring stream of income. I mean, I own a business right now, and it's no different. You income is king, cash flow is king, and it's no different when you retire.
It isn't. So now when you don't have that paycheck coming in anymore, it's all about cash flow. So I'll sit down with some folks that have very little assets, but they'll have amazing cash flow, and they never got a thing to worry about.
Right.
And then I sit down with some folks that have millions, and because of their lifestyle, they're going to blow through that money pretty quickly. I had a doctor that was retiring in the next couple of years, and we did this analysis for her, and she was going to be running out of money in less than 12 years based on her lifestyle. She goes, wait a second, my advisor did all this stuff for me, and I said, well, what kind of rate of return was he using?
Right.
And he was using a 12% rate of return to show her that she was getting into her 90s. And I'm like, where in the world?
12% rate of return?
I'm like, where in the world is he getting that?
I would love to find something that would give me a 12% rate of return,
Exactly.
without any risk.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think my passbook savings account when I was 14 was getting 6%. But of course, that was like 82 when interest rates my parents' mortgage they waited until it came down to 18% before they broke ground on their house. Can you 18% mortgage? People don't even, a lot of young people today don't even.
I can't comprehend that.
I know. I can't comprehend it anymore either. So
that's nuts.
Seek qualified help. And this is where you come in with Bella Advisors and the 5-Star Retirement. A lot of people just want to think, because there's so much stuff that's online today, and there's so much information that can be had. I can do this myself. I don't need to consult an expert like yourself. Why is that wrong?
When is the first time that we ever do something the best time that we do it? And it's typically not. So I'm going through this right now with my daughter, where she's about to turn 16. She got her learner's permit this year. She's 15, about to turn 16, and I'm teaching her how to drive. And
God bless you.
Yeah, it's not going too well. It's nerve-wracking, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, she's trying to figure everything out.
Sure.
So when you're in retirement, there's so many things that you don't know that you got to be paying attention to. And it just makes sense to have a financial ally that can help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and the things that are out there. So this is the kind of stuff we help folks with.
My dad got the Social Security book that they send you, and it's like a phone book. And I'm still a fairly sound mind, and I'm looking through this, and I'm just, just that one, if we talk about 5 stars, just one of these things is just mind-boggling.
It can,
Yeah,
and how you choose your Social Security. That's right. They give
Sure.
you all these different options, like 500 different ways you can file for Social
I don't
Security,
know.
and they won't help you. They won't help you figure out
No, they won't.
what it is. And so, you want to be working with somebody that can help you figure it out, because that alone can easily make a 6-figure difference in income to you throughout your lifetime.
That's pretty significant. That's pretty significant. And of course, reducing expenses before retirement.
I mean, that's easier said than done, right?
Especially, like you said, if somebody's used to a certain lifestyle or a certain spending habit, that's tough.
So it could be paying down the mortgage, paying the mortgage off, paying the cars off, paying student loans off, things of that nature. It can be a good thing, like as a benchmark to get rid of that stuff before you're retiring.
Well, the adage is, when I don't have to go to work every day, my expenses will go down. But like you said, that's not always true.
Completely opposite.
Now you got time to travel and eat out, and I want to start a business and I want to reinvent myself and all that, and you want to be
now I
prepared
can
for
play
that.
golf 3-4 times.
Yeah, exactly. Or shuffleboard.
Shuffleboard,
Depending on
exactly.
whatever floats your boat.
Yeah,
So,
bridge. How much are you betting on the bridge game?
yeah, exactly. Well, my grandma used to do okay with that. God rest her soul. So. Let's talk first of all, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so, Patrick?
Best way to do is just pick up the phone and give us a call at 770-545-8881, and we'll walk you through. Give us a call and set up a time to come in, and we'll do our stress test and analysis for you. So if you're within 5 to 10 years of retiring, or you're currently retired now, then we'll take a look at what do the 5 stars look like in your current plan now. Is there stuff that you're missing? Is there stuff that you need to be paying attention to? What's the current path that you're on right now for retirement? When can you retire? How much do you really need? And answering those big questions for you. So come in, we'll sit down, we'll take a look at all that stuff, and you'll understand where you're at. But you just got to take the action to give us a call, and just call us at 770-545-8881. Or you can go to our website, bellaadvisors.com, and you can get a hold of us there too.
Even if you've made mistakes in the past, it's okay, right?
100%. Everybody's made mistakes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back with 5-star retirement. Patrick Mueller, myself, Chris Monroe, bellaadvisors.com. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few minutes. And welcome back to 5-Star Retirement. Your co-host Chris Monroe alongside Patrick Mueller here of Bella Advisors and the 5-Star Retirement Plan. And we touched on this a little bit in the last segment about Social Security income. And, I've often said that I'm 46 now, and I've often said that Social Security may not be around when I get to retirement age.
There's
Who
a lot of truth to
knows?
that. Yeah.
But Social Security benefits likely to be a big part of a lot of people's retirement plan, and around 63 million Americans receive approximately $1 trillion in benefits. And that was in the year 2018, $1 trillion in benefits, and that's doing nothing but going up. So let's talk about understanding Social Security and, planning for that as part of your overall retirement plan. And as we said, that can be daunting in and of itself.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And something that I think a lot of people need to know is that 75% of our nation's budget, annual expenditures, are all Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So they're fighting over that little 25%. And if they don't make some changes here very quickly, I think it was 2034 is the last time that I looked, that they're going to be reducing everybody's Social Security benefits by 25%.
They never expected people to live this long.
They didn't.
They
People
just
living
didn't.
longer and longer. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, that life expectancy didn't even make it till Social Security age.
Right.
So that's a big deal.
And that was part of the plan, is they were hoping that a certain amount of people would pay into the system, never actually take benefits from it, and that it would be sustainable that way. But that obviously hasn't been the case. And I know what's the full Social Security age now?
Depending on when you're born, it's going to be between age 66 and 67.
And there's been some proposals to push it to 70, I think, right? And that's been on the table where they're
Yeah, that's definitely one of the changes that they're thinking about making, is pushing that back further and further so they don't have to pay those benefits out.
It's a little bit scary. And, you think about my dad, who has a small pension. Remember that word, that pension? You don't hear that anymore.
Yeah, it's going
But
away.
Social Security makes up a good portion of, and he was thankfully able to wait until he was, at full retirement age to take it. But a lot of people, if you take it, it's a heavily reduced benefit.
Big time. So it's about an 8%. Each year that you take it early, you can take it as early as 62. And each year that you take it early, it's about an 8% decrease per year in that lifetime income.
Wow.
And then you can only make so much. You can only make about $17,000 a year. And if you make more than that, then they penalize you on your benefits by taking it early.
No, the government would never do that. Come on, Patrick.
They're so nice, aren't they?
They would never do that. Let's talk about some myths that are common out there about Social Security. Myth: Social Security will cover my income needs in retirement.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, So that's an important thing for people to get a handle on is what is your lifestyle? How much money you're really spending, and that can be dramatically different from person to person. And I would say the average that people are off on how much they're really spending is by about 30%. To how much they think is going out the door to how much is really going out the door. And then if you extend that out over a 10, 15 plus year period of time, I mean, that's the difference right there between somebody having a great retirement and somebody having to go be a Walmart greeter.
which, by the way, they're talking about phasing out anyway. Walmart's talking about phasing that job out. So that may not even be a fallback.
I mean,
what are you going to do?
This is a crazy time we're living in.
And I guess it depends too on whether or not, lifestyle, of course, being one of the factors, but do you have a paid off house? I mean, that makes it, that's a big chunk in someone's income, or expenditures every month. What kind of car do you drive? Do you want to travel? Thankfully, my dad had a paid off house, so he's able to live on less physical income every month. But for somebody that wants to travel, that's what they want to do, and they just expect that Social Security is going to cover this. They ain't going to cut it.
Yeah, we got to be talking about that stuff. And then one thing when you're taking your Social Security, if you're married, a big thing to talk about is, you're probably not going to be going out like Romeo and Juliet. So one spouse is probably going to be living longer than the other spouse. And ladies tend to outlive us men. And
yes,
you're going to lose one of the two Social Securities, right? So then how you choose your benefits and making sure you're taking care of your spouse if you pass away first is a big thing to consider. When you're taking Social Security.
So if a spouse dies, you don't continue to receive that benefit, right? That benefit goes away.
You can keep the higher of the two. So if you're both so say one spouse, say it's the guy who's got $2,000 a month coming in, and the wife has $1,000 a month. If he passes away, she gets the $2,000. His $2,000, she gives up her $1,000.
But you don't keep them both.
You don't keep them both.
I would imagine.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So. We talked a little bit about this too. Myth: it's better to take Social Security benefits as early as possible.
A lot of people think that, like you were talking about, get it while the getting's good.
Right.
Thinking that it's going to be going away. But this is one of those entitlement things that they got to figure out a way to pay for.
Sure.
So I wouldn't be, there's going to be changes made. People that are getting very close to taking their benefits, I don't think these politicians are going to mess with them. That's the biggest voting bloc out there. They want to get reelected.
It's always been a huge, on both sides of the aisles. That Social Security thing, elephant is always in the room, no matter who you vote for or what side of the political aisle you're on. It's that political football that gets thrown around. But I guess the thing is we really don't know what's going to happen by the time that I reach age 70.
Yeah. So I would be building a plan to where it's either reduced benefits from what they're telling you it's going to be, or maybe even kind of pretending that it's not there and looking at it as icing on the cake instead of a big layer of the cake.
I am all for it being, what is it? Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So, prepare as if it's not there. And then you're right. Then you could use that extra money. But so many people are so dependent on that now. Myth: once I start benefits, I can't work anymore. And you covered that a little bit.
So if you take it early, then it's very limited on how much income that you're allowed to be making. So it's a little over $17,000 a year right now that you can make if you're working somewhere. But once you reach full retirement age, depending on what your age is, between 66 and 67, depending on when you were born, once you reach that age, you can make $1 million a year and they don't penalize you on it. You can make as much income as you want to, as long as you make it till full retirement.
I didn't know. I thought there was always a cap on Social Security. So you can continue to receive Social Security if you take it at full retirement age.
That's right. They'll start, other things. They'll start taxing you more.
They're always going to get the money.
Medicare, and
right.
So they've got income thresholds on that now that they just started this year.
And that whole Medicare thing is another. We're talking about choosing Part A, B, C, Z, G for my dad, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in another segment too. Another common myth about Social Security is that my divorce will reduce my benefits.
Yeah, so the big thing with divorce is if you are married more than 10 years, then you're in. You're in like Flynn. Like it will not reduce your benefits. You can file on your ex-spouse's benefits.
Okay.
And it doesn't change anything as long as you're married more than 10 years. So a lot of you divorcees, if that was the case, You got a lot of options that are available for you that maybe you don't realize that are available for you when it comes to taking your Social Security benefits.
There was and this is not as common anymore. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she was in the workforce in her 20s until she had my sister and me. Went out of the workforce and then went back in many years later after we got into high school and gotten out of the house and that kind of thing. And there's a surprise waiting for a lot of people, and especially women that might be single households, that all of a sudden they realize that their benefits are not going to be, because of their working years, either anything at all or very little. Is that something that you see?
That's right. So they have this thing called a spousal benefit. So when say you got the primary, the husband was working all the years, you had the wife taking care of the kids. So he was contributing to Social Security, but she has a spousal benefit. So she can actually file on half of his benefits when she reaches full retirement age, even though she didn't pay into Social Security. So for an example, if he was making $2,000 a month or getting that in from Social Security,
right,
she could file on his benefits and she can get $1,000 a month.
Now, does the 10-year rule apply for that as well?
It does.
It does apply for that.
You got to be married more than 10 years.
More than 10 years. It's a lot of complicated things here.
A ton of stuff, yeah.
All these
rules.
And this is just Social Security. And we talk about your 5-star plan. Go over those 5 stars again.
Yeah, so the 5 stars is income planning, which this goes right into the income plan, where how do you replace your paycheck when you retire? So Social Security is a big cornerstone for most folks.
Right.
If there's going to be some kind of pension, what are the best pension options? How are you going to create that additional income when you retire? And then that ties into your investments. That's another star. How are those investments? How's your money invested to help you replace your paycheck and to accomplish all these things that you're wanting to do? And then taxes is a huge, it gets its own star.
It should, yeah.
How much money you actually get to keep in your pocket versus it going to the government is a big deal of how you can make things more tax efficient now or at some point in the future. And that's a big thing we'll be talking about. And then you got healthcare when it talks about Medicare and, like you said, the A, B, C, D, Zs and all that stuff, and the best thing you should have. And then you got home health care, assisted living, nursing home care. And then you got legacy planning is the 5th star, which is whatever you haven't spent throughout your lifetime. What are you planning on leaving to your kids, grandkids, charities, give for your family? How do you want that to be set up?
Well, you talk about and the health point of that star. My grandmother went into a nursing home. This was in the 80s with Alzheimer's. And some things you don't plan for, $30,000 a year all of a sudden in full-time nursing home care. You want to talk about cracking open a nest egg and scrambling it in a hurry.
Exactly.
If you haven't really planned for that. Is there anything today, and this is a little bit off topic from Social Security, but is there anything today that folks can help plan for that in some way?
For sure. For your health care, for those big expenses, yeah. So a lot of people get long-term care insurance, but it's really expensive. It still doesn't cover everything. Companies are leaving the marketplace, and there's getting big rate increases right now.
Yeah, I haven't. In fact, at my employer, we had long-term health and care for a while, and it all of a sudden didn't show up one year in our, open benefits. And I'm like, where did that go? So I guess that's why it's a cost. It's a major cost.
It's really expensive. It's going away. But now there's things that are asset-based that can help you out a lot, which is, say, for an example, you put $100,000 into one of these accounts, they'll give you a multiple of that you could use for home health care, assisted living, nursing home care, chronic care. So they'll give you, $400,000 or $500,000 that you could use, and then whatever out of that amount you didn't use actually goes to your beneficiaries tax free.
Yeah, that wasn't
around.
Unfortunately.
There's some good stuff.
Yeah, you can go through $100,000 in nursing care, and it's even more. This was in the 80s.
Yeah, because this is. I want to say the average in Georgia is $6,700 a month. In Atlanta, you can probably add a couple more grand to that.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about Social Security in this segment, and coming up, we're going to talk about the 401k. It really is the savings vehicle for most folks. That's coming up next here on 5-Star Retirement and Bella Advisors. I'm Chris Monroe. And welcome back to 5-Star Retirement. I am Chris Monroe, the co-host, but the real guy with all the knowledge here is Patrick Mueller. Is it Mueller or Mueller? It's not Mueller.
Mueller.
I'm going to remember Bueller.
Yeah, so think like Bueller with the
Bueller,
M.
got you.
Yeah, my dad used to call me Ferris because I skipped school so much when I was in high school.
I love it. Yeah. Did you have the keyboard with the old MIDI with the... Still a great movie.
Yeah, it was.
The 80s had some...
That's a classic.
Some of the best movies
it's one of the
around.
ones that stands the test of time.
Without a doubt. Bella Advisors is your company, and your 5-Star Retirement plan. One of the things that we're talking about today is income, and we talked a little bit about it earlier in the show. My dad has a pension plan.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of millennials today, what's that? Because there are no pension plans unless you're, I guess, working for the government or school, maybe a
the
public
government school, or maybe you just were working for a company for a long time when they still had a pension.
But if you're getting into the workforce today, I mean, it's very,
but now it's you're more likely to see a 401k that you're contributing to, and then they're matching you, and then so you got to try to take that 401k and try to create your own pension out of that.
You really do, and here's a whole nother thing: if somebody is not versed at all in investing, all of a sudden you're given this brochure, and you've got this list of mutual funds or exchange traded funds or company stock. I need to put this amount in, but a lot of people have no idea how to take that tax deferred money every paycheck and put it in the right place that's going to be beneficial as possible to them.
And they make it so difficult, because there's so many different options that you got, and what do you put your money into? And then what's really important is when you're getting close to retiring, or if you've left a company or you hit 59 and a half, they actually start letting you roll out that 401k and move it into your own individual IRA account.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so there's that. That's before then there's a mandatory withdrawal age too, right? Where you have to start taking withdrawals.
So here's the deal with these accounts. I think it's really important that since we're talking about it now, we'll talk about 1 star, which is taxes.
Okay.
In our 5-star plan. So this is a big deal because when people are putting their money into 401ks and IRAs and all those tax deferred plans, they think that they're saving money in taxes. But you're not saving any money on taxes. You're only deferring having to pay the income taxes for that year, and you're moving it into the future.
Right.
And how many times do we have a problem when we put that problem off? Does it typically get better?
They'll kick the can down the road. So it is a tax break, at least because it is not taxable at the time that you put it away.
For that year,
but
you can take it as a deduction that year. It didn't go away.
It didn't go away.
It didn't go away. It's deferring into the future. So that's what happens at age 70 and a half.
Okay.
The government says, hey, you've been deferring having to pay your income taxes on this money all this time.
Right.
We want our money.
Now we want our money.
So they have you take out a percentage each year. It's called required minimum distribution. So they have you take out a minimum amount each year, and it's based off of life expectancy. So each year older that you are, the percentage goes up higher and higher every single year on what you're forced to take out and pay your income taxes on that money.
Right now, I'm in my 401k with our company. I have 4 core funds in there that I use, and because I still have quite a bit of time, I'm fairly aggressive in my. But it apparently the average person only holds 1 or 2 funds, even if they're offered 15, 20 or more. Is that a problem? Could there be too many? Is that
it can kind of go both ways.
I guess
but usually somebody just doesn't know what they're picking, right? And so they're just like, I'm just going to pick this one because it sounds good, Or people will pick the target funds, like, well, I plan on retiring in 2025, so
Vanguard has a number of those target funds I know that are retirement target 2055, and supposedly adjust the risk reward ratio as the time goes on.
Yeah, so you have so many. Sometimes you can have a lot of options, but usually it's pretty limited on what you can be using to get things safe and protected. There's not a whole lot of safety options inside of a 401k, so that's why I bring it up. If you've got a dormant 401k of a company you've left and it's just kind of sitting there, or you hit age 59 and a half, most companies allow you to move that money out into your own individual IRA, and it just opens up a whole world of stuff that you can be putting your money into, where you can actually protect it from loss. Since you're on the home stretch of retiring, you're in the retirement red zone now, and so you're very close to retiring. And it's more about protecting that money from loss than it is trying to be aggressive and get the full growth of the market and try to beat the market.
I guarantee you, there's a ton of people that probably have left a job and left a 401k behind that they didn't even remember. It's like, oh yeah, I left that job 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, remember that company I used to work for?
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just sitting there. And could be doing so much more, unless they just happen to be in good investments, but they won't know that until they talk to you.
Well, yeah, they don't know that, and then there's also fees inside of 401k. So the way these companies make their money, right, is by charging an admin fee on everybody's stuff, and a lot of times you don't realize that you're paying it.
Sure.
So even if it's with the same custodian, you could just be moving it from that 401k to your own individual IRA, be invested in exactly the same stuff, and you're going to be saving yourself some money on fees.
The companies are all touting their no or low mutual fund fees now, or ETFs and that kind of thing. But I was in a couple when I was young. You start looking at some of the expense ratios, which is how much of percentage that they take. And some of it, if it begins with a number and not a zero, that's bad. If it's 1 point something or
that's right.
And
the thing that's crazy about mutual funds is there can be up to 17 different fees inside a mutual fund. So
what?
So when you look at mutual funds, the expense ratio, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's just one expense.
So I'll give you an example. So not to hate on Vanguard, which I don't. I like Vanguard.
Sure.
I think they're a great do-it-yourself place.
Stalwart.
But there was a guy who came in. We did an analysis on it. And he was paying 0.29% on his in fees, right? Which isn't bad. But when we have stuff that analyzes all the fees, and so when we take a look at everything, he was paying close to 2% in fees, and that's with a really good company where the fees are low. So the average fees in the mutual fund industry is 3.73%. And I like to use an analogy for that. So think you have this amazing racehorse, right? You're at the Kentucky Derby, but then you throw a 375-pound jockey on top of that racehorse. Guess who's not winning the Kentucky Derby?
That's and as much as I have been researching mutual funds, I didn't realize that the fees could be that high.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because when you start looking at some of the charts of fees and returns and stuff, the eyes start to glaze over a little bit for us that aren't really into financials.
Oh man, they send you that thick prospectus.
Oh man, the prospectus, and it's like
nobody's reading that thing.
No, that line's a birdcage at best for somebody, and probably keeps the postal service in business too. Delivering those heavy things.
Exactly.
Partially. We talked about this a little bit in one of the other segments, but what about if a company's stock is offered? Is it of course. Somebody thought, Enron was going up 10% a quarter. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm just going to push all my chips into that one company stock, no matter how much I love my company. Probably not a good idea to bet that much on the farm.
I mean, sometimes some companies are giving you a really good incentive for investing in their stock, where if you buy a share, they'll give you a share or something like that. So that stuff can be really good, just kind of like when you're contributing to your 401k.
You get it at a discount based upon what the market rate is.
They might match you or something of that nature. So you want to take advantage of that stuff as much as you can. But again, when you're getting closer to retirement, you got to diversify your stuff, because who knows what's going to happen to that company. I mean, you got some big companies here in Atlanta, whether it be Coke or Home Depot, UPS. You got a lot of big companies that are here, and who knows what kind of blow one of those companies could take, where it's just going to hit that stock price, and then your stock goes down. And if that's happening when you're in the early years of retirement, that's one of those things that's not good, that you want to be paying attention to.
Exactly. Yeah. And the nice thing about the 401k is that it is automatic. It's something that you don't really, it's money that you don't see. And for a lot of people, myself included, that's, if it comes out of the check first, that it needs to. Is there a percentage that you have in mind for what people should be saving, or is it client specific based upon,
It's really client specific, and it really has more to do with what your lifestyle is.
Gotcha.
On how much and what you want your lifestyle to be in retirement, and how much you got to have saved, or when you get there, on what it is that you really need to be doing right now and how much you need to be putting away. But you hit on a key point, that whatever it is, you got to make it to where it's automatic, to where it's in your 401k and it's just coming out. Or you've got it just set up as a bill that's going out to your investment company or wherever it is that you're wanting your dollars to go to, and just making it to where it's automatic, to where you just don't think about it. And then whatever's left, that's what you get to spend every single month. But you got to do that first. Otherwise, you're going to figure out a way to spend that money that comes in. It's so easy.
It is.
It's so easy to do.
Well, like you said in the grocery cart analogy, $100 used to fill a cart. Now it fills a bag. So, and it's tough. But even if you save 1%, putting something away, and what I did was I started small, and then as my income grew, I move it up every year. And I know our plan actually offers an automatic increase every year, where it'll automatically move up 1%.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And, a lot of people will also say, and what I've heard is that don't leave the money on the table. If your company is matching up to 5%, if you can put 5% in, if they're matching 50 cents on the dollar or dollar to dollar, that's just money.
Free money.
Yeah, it's free money.
Yeah, you need to take that. You get 100% return on your money immediately.
Immediately, right? So it's smart to do. And they've made it a lot easier, though. One of the things I found is as you log on today, and with everything being digital, to borrow against your 401k. Probably not smart in most cases, I would imagine.
No, not really. Not really. As long as you feel like you can pay that back. But depending on, the good thing about that, though, is that if the interest rate is okay and you feel like you can be paying that money back, you're not having to pay the income taxes on that money while it's in the 401k still, and you're paying back that loan.
Just don't get fired while it's in payback, because then you would owe all of the taxes based upon whatever. You would either have to pay that money back immediately, or you would face the 40% tax or something on it. It's hefty. Early withdrawal.
Well, it's ridiculous, yeah.
So,
well, it's 10%. They penalize you 10%, but then you still have to pay your income tax at the income tax bracket that you're at.
That's crazy. 401k is a good vehicle, and I think a lot of people need more guidance on how to take that income, depending on where they're at in their life, depending on their goals. You can call Bella Advisors at
give us a call 770-545-8881, and for our listeners, the offer that we're making is give us a call, and if you're within 5 to 10 years away from retiring, or you're currently retired, we will do a complimentary stress test and analysis on your current retirement plan. So
nice.
we'll go through all of those things, and we're going to understand what is the current path that you're on in your retirement. How's it looking?
Yeah.
Are you going to run out of money? How long is the money going to be lasting for?
You can't beat free.
You can't beat free.
You can't beat free. I mean, might as well come on in and at least get it done. We'll talk about that and more coming up in the next segment here on 5-Star Retirement. And welcome back to 5-Star Retirement and Bella Investors. Patrick Mueller, Chris Monroe here, co-host of 5-Star Retirement. And, we think about retirement, and we all want to be there someday. We think about how good it's going to be to not have to answer to a boss, to not have to answer to an alarm clock. But there's a lot of planning that goes into making a comfortable retirement happen.
For sure.
Yeah. And I was reading a statistic, easy for me to say, not too long ago about it's my generation in Gen X. A lot of people are going to be facing possible poverty because they're not planning at all for retirement, and they're just expecting to, in a bad situation.
Yeah. So what you have is you got the baby boomers. You got this big demographic that's out there that started retiring back in 2012. So you got 10,000 baby boomers a day that are retiring, and
wow.
So you got the best savers in history that are now starting to pull their money out of the markets. And the markets, very simply, is money going in and money going out. So you got this huge segment that's pulling their money out. Like we talked about earlier, at age 70 and a half, the government starts forcing you to take the money out of your 401ks and IRAs at that point. So you got this huge segment of the population taking their money out. And then you got the worst savers in history, okay? So you got your millennials, Generation X, right? So you got the worst savers because
I resemble that remark. So yeah.
There's these huge student loan debts, right? They got $100,000 in student loan debt and not even thinking about putting money away for retirement. So it's a big deal.
It's scary too. And then it's that kicking the can down. I'll worry about that. I'm 20 now. I don't have to really worry about that right now. And then 30 rolls around, and then 40 rolls around, and guess what? Then you're getting close to retirement. So that's why you need to come in and talk to Patrick, talk about the 5 pillars, the 5 points of this star to get you on down the road to a great retirement and planning, because it's never too early and it's never too late.
That's right.
To start.
So the sooner that you start planning and putting an actual plan together, the better.
Who was it that said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world? There was somebody that said that.
Einstein.
Was it Einstein that said that?
Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, if you think about the way compound interest works. So, all right, let's get to some of the questions that have come in. Stu in Ackworth. I was advised to roll my 401k plan from a previous employer into a traditional IRA. And of course, there's 2, Roth and traditional. I haven't made any contributions to it since rolling it over. It has grown very little. I have a 401k with my new employer. Should I roll my traditional IRA into that new 401k account?
My opinion, I would say no, that is not a good thing. Keep it in your own individual IRA, because you can figure out a better place to invest the money when it's in your own IRA, but it's 100% in your control, versus if you're rolling it over into your employer's 401k, now you have all those rules and regulations that are around that money on when you can pull that money out. Sometimes it can't be until you actually leave the company. You've got limited investment options. So when it's in your own IRA, Stu, you got every avenue pretty much available to you that you could invest that money in to try to get a better return on it. So you want to be thinking about how do you protect that money and how are you going to use that to create the income that you need when you do decide to retire.
Yeah, and it really depends on your employer's 401k plan.
Mm-hmm.
They may just have very limited options, and I know I've been with some companies that were just, they were just terrible. They were with a terrible company, and the website's terrible, and you can't figure out your investments and all of that. And so many upstarts and investment, that are low or no fee today with the IRAs have made it easy with all these investment choices out there through ETFs and
Yep.
And that kind of thing.
Yeah, technology has come such a long way these days with keeping the costs down. It's kind of like technology on your cell phone. There's so many things that are out there that people don't even realize that are there, where they can have their money safe and protected and still get a great rate of return on it. They just don't understand the things that are out there that they should be looking at.
That's very true. All right, next question from Maggie in Austell. Maggie says, I'm turning 70 in November. When will I be required to make my first RMD, recommended mandatory distribution? I think is probably what that stands for.
Yeah, good question,
Okay.
Maggie.
And can I avoid taking the initial withdrawal and the second withdrawal in the same year? So she's turning 70 in November.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that, okay.
So if she's turning 70 in November, you have to, it's the year that you turn 70 and a half. So she won't actually be turning 70 and a half until the following year. And then, so I believe it's the cutoff is June, right? The end of June. So if you're turning 70, and if your birthday is before June 30th, then that particular year you would take out a required minimum distribution. But that first year that you take it, you could defer it up until April 15th of the next year. But then you've got to take another required minimum distribution that same year. They don't let you defer it into the next year.
I see.
So you're going to be taking 2 in 1 year.
So that's a good question. So there's no way
No.
to avoid. Your question is, can I avoid that second one? And it doesn't look like that because of the way her birthday falls.
Yeah, she cannot avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money in her pocket.
Oh, Maggie.
Oh, Maggie. All right.
So yeah, but yeah, so for her, that next year, she turns 70 and a half that next year. So she only has to take 1 that next year. But it's just if she defers it until April 15th of the following year, then she'd have to take 2 that same year.
All right. Jane from Snellville asked, can I buy ETFs or exchange-traded funds for my Roth IRA?
Yes. Yeah, that's a really good question too. Man, there's some really good questions here. But and you brought this up earlier. I was impressed that you knew what exchange-traded funds are. So exchange-traded funds, it's really the low-cost version of a mutual fund.
Right.
So you got the choice between mutual funds and an exchange-traded fund. Go with the exchange-traded fund because the fees are going to be minuscule compared to, the average mutual fund cost is 3.73% out there, and you might be paying, 0.37.
And they trade just like a stock, right? Whereas a mutual fund generally has one trading window per day, and you
Right.
buy it at the net asset value or the NAV. An ETF trades throughout the day. So if it falls during the day and I
that's
want to get in
another
on a dip, I can buy an ETF that way.
That's another good point. So when you decide, hey, the markets are falling and you want to sell off that mutual fund, well, you got to wait to see where the price is at the end of the closing day.
Right.
Versus if you got an ETF, it trades like a stock. So when you're out, you're out.
All right. That's in real quick, the difference between a Roth and a traditional IRA. If I have a Roth because that's what I qualified for, but there's income limitations of what you can do. One of them you put taxes in up front, you pay taxes up front, after tax money, and the other one's the other way around.
Exactly. So with your IRAs and your 401ks, you are not deciding not to pay the tax on the money now. You're going to defer having to pay it into the future. A Roth IRA, you're deciding you're going to go ahead and pay the tax now, which is a good thing. Taxes are on sale right now. You're going to have to pay it at some point. It never feels good. It never feels good.
The government is going to get their money. We know this.
But then it's going to grow tax-free for you, and you're going to be able to pull that money out tax-free down the road. So you can kind of think of it like this. You're either going to pay taxes on the seed, if you say for you're a farmer, right? You're going to pay taxes on the seed, or you're going to pay taxes on the harvest when you're harvesting all that stuff and taking it to the market.
So I guess, and maybe this is a broad statement, that a Roth IRA may make sense for a lot more people.
And a lot of times people have a Roth 401k option, and they've never asked about it at their employer. So sometimes you've got that option available to you as well.
I see that kind of like in the deferment section of mine. It says % deferred to Roth option. I guess that's there, and I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, mind blown.
Learning something every day here.
Yeah.
All right, so this next question comes from, and I don't know if this is his real name, but it's Tex in Smyrna.
Oh, man.
And Tex wants to know, my wife has been retired from the workforce for 8 years, and the two of us have approximately $750,000 in assets, no debt. Our combined Social Security benefits today would be more than adequate to sustain our current lifestyle. Is there any point in waiting an additional 3 years to retire at full retirement age if we can comfortably live off Social Security benefits now?
So that depends if they're going to be needing to pull money off of their assets. If is Social Security really going to be funding everything? Then
and it doesn't say what type of assets. I don't know if that's
so
just
it might
liquid
be,
or not, or yeah.
So if they're comfortable with just living off of the Social Security benefits, they got to ask themselves, well, if they each year that you defer your Social Security benefits, you get an 8% increase on your lifetime income. So not only do they want to think about, well, could it sustain them now, but how is that going to look in the future? If you predecease your wife, what's going to be left for her down the road, and how is she going to be able to replace that income? So as long as you're doing the right things with the other assets that you got to maybe create more income or take care of replacing that income if something happens to you, then I think that could be just fine. I mean, you can be, as long as you're not going to continue working because they penalize you by taking your Social Security benefits early if you want to take it early. But sounds pretty good, Tex.
I mean, it sounds like he's done pretty well. But again, these are questions that really can't be answered in full, completely, without coming in, without sitting down and really looking at a person's overall financial picture, health, what mistakes they've made, what they've done right, where they want to be, lifestyle. I mean, there's so many things that need to be assessed, and you can help get those people in that, down that
that's
right
what we
path.
do. We do a real planning for folks. We're not just trying to invest the money, even though that's part of what it is that we do, but
Sure.
you got to understand where you're at, and you got to understand the current path that you're on. There's so many different variables, just like Texas situation where he's wanting to see if he can retire now, take Social Security now. He's got $750,000 in assets. How do you make that work? So we take all that complex stuff and we make it really simple. And we do a stress test and analysis for you. And we take a look at the 5 areas of retirement planning, and then I'll give you my observations on what it is that we see. Here's what you're doing that's good, and you're going to want to continue to keep doing these things, and there's going to be stuff that's going to be not so good. These would be things that I would be fixing if I were you. And if we feel like it's a good fit to be working with each other, that's great. If not, this is free. Don't let that stop you from getting clarity on what's going on in your situation. But the thing you got to do is you got to take action, and you got to pick up the phone and give us a call. And if you're one of the callers that calls us in the next 15 minutes, we're going to do this free of charge for you. So give us a call here, 770-545-8881. Again, that's 770-545-8881. And if you're driving down the road, don't try to give us a call right now. Wait till you pull over, but give us a call, 770-545-8881, or you can go to our website, bellaadvisors.com, and get a hold of us there.
That's BELLA Advisors, Bella Advisors. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with free. And boy, man, am I the master of procrastination. Put that off there, but this is one of those things that you really shouldn't put off any longer because, your future depends on it.
Yeah, most people plan their last vacation better than they plan for their retirement because of that exact
Most people
thing.
plan their TV watching and Netflix binging better than they probably do their retirement. So great first show, Patrick.
Yeah.
Great to be with you, and really looking forward to the show.
Likewise.
5-star retirement. I hope you got something out of this. I know you did, and we hope you'll join us coming up in the next segment. Thanks.